Good morning and welcome to our 6th annual Domestic Violence Breakfast and Briefing. We are so glad that you're here. Every year this event seems to get bigger and better, and that is so reassuring to all of us who are working in the field of domestic violence, that we have such wide support from our community. So thank you for making a stand on this issue by being here today. I'm Jessica Butler. I'm the director at Gateway Domestic Violence Center. Gateway has sponsored this event in conjunction with McDonald's, Peach State Bank, Public Health, and the Domestic Violence Task Force of the Northeastern Judicial Circuit. I'd like to turn the program over to Stephanie Woodard, who is our Solicitor General and Chair of the Task Force, for the presentation of our Domestic Violence Officer of the Year Award. Stephanie?
Good morning. Thank you for coming out. I'm so excited to see everyone here today, and I'm so excited to be allowed to present this award. You know, I asked the sheriff for the honor to do this today. I think it probably rightfully belongs with him because it's one of his deputies that will be receiving it this year. But I asked for this because I met this officer when I moved to this jurisdiction, and he was on one of the first homicide cases that I defended at that point when I was in private practice. And I was so impressed at my first introduction to law enforcement in Hall County that someone of this dignity and this attitude was on law enforcement and working, showing me evidence at that time, but just spoke with such respect and such kindness to people that he didn't know. And I watched throughout the progression of that case as it continued through preparation for trial, the trial of the case, and even the disposition of the case. And I was delighted in 2007 when he was transferred to the Domestic Violence Unit and took the role of sergeant there. Bob Watterson oversees our Domestic Violence Task Force and works daily with all of the officers that go out on the scene. He does all of their roll call training, and then works with all of the other officers through the entire Sheriff's Department to try and keep them updated on our high-risk offenders, to keep extra patrols going by to see folks that are currently in danger and currently concerned about their safety. And in the solicitor's office, we deal every day with the folks that are coming in, the ladies and the victims of domestic violence on the morning after and the days after. And I hear repetitively, Sergeant Bob Watterson listened to me with respect. He was kind. I felt safe. He has to go back into their homes the morning after often and take photographs, talk about very personal situations, ask them to open up their hearts when the trauma of that is completely fresh, and share with them the intimate details of what happened in their homes and in their relationships. 100% of the time, we actually have an endearing nickname for him that he's threatened me with my life if I ever repeat in open forum, so I won't do it when I'm mic'd and being recorded, but if you will help me in honoring Sergeant Watterson today. Absolutely, thank you. I'm Karen Neff, and I'm with District 2 Public Health in Gainesville. And I'd like to introduce our speaker this morning. Abigail is the daughter of Susan Hosford and the late Dr. Mike Hosford from Gainesville. She is the mother of 5 children, ranging in ages from 16 to 4. She writes a syndicated newspaper column called Ask Lulabelle. She is the author of A Clock, A Coffee Pot, and A Field of Lilies. And today is the debut of her new book, Finding Hope, The Journey of a Battered Wife. Abigail is a survivor of domestic violence, a nightmare which lasted for 7 years. And she is here today to share her story with us.
Good morning. I can see that some of you may be shocked to learn that I am a survivor of domestic violence. Is it because I don't look like a battered wife? Is it because I look kind of smart and you think smart girls don't get into abusive relationships? Battered women and girls in abusive relationships are all around you, my friends. Some of us are highly educated. Some of us are rich. Some of us are poor. Some of us saw our fathers hit our mothers. Some of us have been abused our whole lives. And some of us, like me, came from a loving home. We are all different. Once you have met one battered wife, you have met one battered wife. Don't put us in a box. I was 17 when I met William. When I was with him, I felt alive. His intense feelings for me made me feel happy. He told me he loved me right away. He told me he didn't want me to talk to other boys. He told me I was pretty. He told me I was special. And it's not like it's hard to seduce a 17-year-old girl, and that's what he was doing. He was 21, and my parents hated him, and that made me like him more. They forbid me to see him, and I became very sneaky, and I lied a lot, and I even skipped school to go see him. In a very short amount of time, I was isolated. Instead of taking a music scholarship to the top college of my choice because it was in North Carolina and too far away from William, I went to a school much closer. He became my everything. I needed him like I needed air to breathe. I was addicted to him. During our first year of dating, I always had bruises on my arms from him grabbing me. I didn't know what to think about how rough he would sometimes get, but he never hit me, so I thought the way he touched me was okay. Sometimes he would shake me and tell me he didn't love me anymore when I did something wrong, and that scared me. I would do anything to make him love me more. Anything. Which is a terrible thing to do because sometimes the price of doing that is more than you can afford. On New Year's Eve, 1992, I was 18 years old. William and I were at a party at his next-door neighbor's house. He and I left the party because he wanted to go someplace else. He wanted my car keys, and I told him no, which is a scary thing to say, but I said no. And we had a standoff in his driveway because he was drunk and I didn't want him to drive. I tried to go inside the house, but he kept screaming at me and he blocked the way. And then wham, his fist went through my face over and over. He broke my nose, gave me 2 black eyes, bruised my stomach, my legs, my arms, and my back from kicking me repeatedly, and he wouldn't stop. I thought I might die. Some of his friends came outside, and it took 4 of them to get him off of me. They took William inside and beat the crap out of him, and his stepmother got me off the driveway and removed the gravel which was embedded into my skin, and she put ice on my face. She said she was sorry no one was sober enough to drive me home, and no one called the police, in case you are wondering, and no one called my parents. William's stepmother did give me a warning, and she said, if he hit you once, he will do it again. Don't ever come back here. But the next morning, William cried. He said he was sorry. Later, he brought me gifts. He called me constantly. He told me he loved me and would never, ever hit me again. He was going to change, and he said he would die without me. I hid this from my family by telling my mother I was in an unfortunate volleyball accident at the party, and I had gotten hit in the face with the ball really hard. It was my first real secret, and I guarded it with my life. My parents hated William and knew something wasn't right. Believe me, they tried to discourage the relationship, but I was 18 years old by then, and I had become brainwashed over the course of my first year of dating William. My reality was altered. In my mind, I knew he was bad for me, but seeing him cry and opening gifts from him made me feel so loved. Our relationship was euphoric after he beat me. It really is like a drug. You know the relationship is bad for you, but the feeling of being so high during the honeymoon period makes you second guess any plans of breaking up. It is a vicious trap. This New Year's Eve, ringing in the year 1993, was the beginning of a downward spiral for me. A spiral of highs and lows, being hit and then kissing and making up. And by the time I was 19 years old, I had slipped away into a deep, dark hole. I was pregnant with our first child, and William and I decided to get married. Our wedding took place in my parents' backyard. My father was getting ready to walk me down the aisle when he said, "Abby, you don't have to go through with this. Let's just sneak out the front door and I will send you and your baby somewhere where you can be safe. Don't worry about William. I know people in my AA meetings, and I think I could make him disappear. And if not, I know I can find someone to chop his you-know-whats off." And I knew I had heard the offer I needed to take, but I didn't take it. I walked down the aisle, said my vows, and I broke my family's heart. Because I thought getting married would change things. William would finally realize he wasn't going to lose me and he would stop being so controlling. But I ended up suffering more abuse than I thought humanly possible. I was hit, slapped, kicked, raped, pushed downstairs, locked in the basement. My head has left holes in the walls of hotels and rooms in my house. Do you want to hear all the gory details? Do you want to know why I didn't just leave? Once the honeymoon high starts to get old, you step into an even bigger trap. This one is harder to break free of. It is the trap of knowing he will eventually kill you or your family if you leave him. Do you know what it feels like to have the cold, steel barrel of a loaded, sawed-off shotgun to your temple? Have you ever seen your life flash before your eyes? Have you ever closed your eyes and braced yourself for when your brains are about to splatter all over the walls of your house, and then the next day to be treated like it never happened? That is what it feels like to be a battered wife. After I had lived in this nightmare for 5 years, William was the one to leave me. His family moved across and he left, his family moved across the country, and he left my daughter and me behind. And I was 5 months pregnant with our second baby. I stayed back here in Georgia, and I was a happy and carefree single mother. And looking back, I should have gotten counseling at that time, but my shame and embarrassment of being a battered wife prevented me from reaching out to anyone. I figured if William was out of the picture, I would just go back to normal and just be magically strong. But I wasn't strong enough. Because when William came out to visit us a year later and meet the new baby, I fell for his magic words again. He seduced me again. William promised me he was getting help in AA. He told me he was sorry over and over again. He promised never to hurt me. I married him for better and for worse. I had seen the worst, and he thought I deserved a chance to see the better. So after a year-long separation, I left my family, my friends, my job, my entire world to give William another chance. And I was very excited because I had paid my dues and I deserved to be happy and in love with my charming husband. My heart was full of hope until we made our overnight stop somewhere in Oklahoma, and William smashed my head through a wall in our hotel room, and he jerked the phone out of the wall so I couldn't call for help. He told me I was his and our children were his, and that if I did anything stupid, he would kill me. And I believed him. I knew I was trapped. I felt like a complete loser, and I felt incredibly stupid. I put my hands up to God in frustration, and I gave up.